Hi guys.
Hello.
Hey folks, I'm Tina Hui of Ball of Coin, and we're here with Erik Voorhees. Erik, please say hello and introduce yourself briefly.
Okay. Hello. I'm Erik Voorhees. I am currently the CEO of Shapeshift.io, formerly head of Coinapult and Satoshi Dice, and I was head of marketing at BitInstant way back in the day.
Oh, actually, wait, you were on the show before and we called you the Erik Voorhees.
The Erik Voorhees, yes.
So we'll have to,
Whatever moniker you'd like to use is fine with me.
there we go, we're putting that back in there. So, the Erik Voorhees, how have you been?
I've been great. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me on the show.
And I understand Shapeshift has some exciting new announcements today.
Yeah, so our big announcement today is that we got our app into the App Store on Apple. Um,
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a big challenge for many companies to get into the Apple Store. So we were expecting a big fight, but actually it kind of just sailed through,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, it wasn't a problem at all. So we got approved about a week ago, and then decided to push it live today.
So, what is the app all about?
So the
Oh.
app does exactly what the website does. It allows instant conversions between different digital currencies. So all the same coins are on the app versus the website, and it's all the same. So there's no sign up or accounts or anything. Anyone can just download the app and then convert between Litecoin to Dogecoin to NXT to Ripple to Bitcoin, whatever they want to do.
Amazing. So, but okay, is it all coins or just some?
It's most of the top ones. We have I think 36 coins, including Bitcoin. There's like 500 of these now. A lot of them aren't even worth really discussing, but of the ones that have gained any sort of market traction, we try to get them up on the platform.
And how would they get on the platform if they were interested in doing so?
Well, we basically just pick ones that we think are good enough or have gotten enough attention to trade. We basically look at how much is being exchanged of that coin every day. So what's the dollar value of the exchange market for that coin? And if it's high enough, we'll put it on the site. Some coins are harder than others. So if there's some that are super easy, like if they're clones of Bitcoin in the software, those will go up more easily than something like Ripple, which was an entirely different code base, or NXT.
So Ripple is Ripple available on Shapeshift or
Yeah, Ripple's been available for a few months. That was by far our hardest coin to add. And we actually had to have a whole new server just to hold the Ripple client. So,
ooh,
so
why
like
is
we once,
that?
I don't, well, it just hogs up all the resources. And so we have one server with all the other coins and one server just for Ripple because it was being greedy.
And Ripple's very special. It was
I
being
guess
greedy.
Ripple thinks it's very special and it deserves its own server. It wasn't playing nice with the other coins.
Look at that, Ripple. So, I mean, can we speak to what you think about having 500 coins in the ecosystem or more now? I mean, do we need
Yeah,
this many coins?
well, no, it's kind of like just as in the early days of the internet. When there's all these websites, most websites that get created are stupid and will never take off or become successful, right? But
Or wrong
some of
timing, that sort of thing.
wrong timing, yeah, but some of them become huge, and it's very hard to figure out which ones will be popular for what uses beforehand. And so speculators are always trying to figure out like which of these coins is useful for something. And fortunately, Shapeshift doesn't have to try to figure out which coins will be popular. We just any coins that become popular, we add to the site, and we're pretty much, we don't really care what they are.
What was it? Black Coin a while back actually petitioned for us to make a video just for them, and so we
Uh-huh.
did. And what happens if somebody starts petitioning and they're like, "Come on, add us."
Oh, we get that all the time. We probably get like 5 to 10 emails every day of people wanting their coins to be added, and they all think that their coin is the most important coin in the world, of course. So we don't want to hurt their feelings, but generally, like a coin needs to show some actual market traction, and it typically won't show market traction unless it does something unique or innovative. Something you can't just clone another coin and expect to be useful. You have to
Right.
have something unique, something that you're experimenting with that other people find to be interesting.
What are the most interesting coins you've seen?
Um, well, I like NXT a lot because it has a built-in asset market that's built into the blockchain, so people can essentially sell shares of assets that they create within the NXT blockchain. So there's no central exchange of those shares, which is very cool. Um, I like I like Nubits a lot and Tether because they're stable with the U.S. dollar. So people that want to hedge against the volatility can hold those coins. Dash and Blackcoin and Monero are really good for privacy. So they're all superior to Bitcoin in terms of just anonymity purposes. So all those are probably my top coins.
And I know Shapeshift is big on, there's like your differentiating factor is there's anonymity, there's no hassle in terms of having to sign up. How does that work exactly?
Yeah, well, basically, cryptocurrencies allow people to do financial transactions without providing all their personal private information, which is a huge benefit to mankind without having to put all your sensitive data, all over the internet. That hugely cuts down on things like identity theft and all that. So Shapeshift is built basically to use these advantages of cryptocurrency to allow people to exchange in a new way that is far more protecting of their safety. So it is consumer protection by design. And the way it works is that you simply go to the website or you use the app, and you tell us what coin you have and what coin you want, and you give us the address of the coin you want, and we give you an address of the coin you have, and you send the coin to us, and we send a coin back to you, and it takes just several seconds usually to do the exchange.
So it's just basically just address to address, and it's more or less not cumbersome.
Yeah, and I made it because basically I wanted this tool for myself. I wanted to be able to buy a coin instantly, and digital currencies should not take
10
hours
seconds,
to do anything.
hours, days.
Yeah, and if you sign up with a normal exchange, you have to deposit money. They almost all require 6 confirmations, which could mean an hour or more in waiting for that. You have to give them personal information. You have to put in bid orders or ask orders. Sometimes you just want your damn coins, and then to withdraw them, sometimes they'll wait for approvals on the withdrawal. So it can literally take hours to get coins on normal exchanges.
So what happens if you need like a refund? You're like, wait a minute, I didn't mean to send it to that address, or you make a mistake or something.
Well, like in anything with Bitcoin, if you actually send your coins to the right address, Shapeshift will do the conversion and send you the converted coins that you wanted. If you change your mind, you can convert it back again just as easily.
So you're just a converter. You're not like a money transmitter type thing, payment processor.
We're like a vending machine where you walk up and you put your coins in, and now pops the candy bar.
Ah, very cool.
But instead of a candy bar, it's Dogecoin.
Very cool. Okay,
Yeah.
So now we're clear on exactly what this is. So it's just a way to transfer. So I could take all my Dogecoins and turn them into Bitcoin, for instance.
Yep. Or you could turn them into Ripple or whatever you want. I think now we have about 500 pairs. So
Wow.
more trading pairs than any other exchange. There's nowhere else that you can actually exchange Ripple for Dash, for example.
Right.
The only place you can do that is on Shapeshift.
That's very cool. I like the
Yeah.
name then, Shapeshift.
Yeah, it works.
So, I mean, of course, you're the Erik Voorhees. We should ask you something more all-encompassing, like, what is going on with the painting back there?
So this is the bear whale.
Yeah.
I don't know if people can see that, but the bear whale is a fun piece of Bitcoin lore. I think it was maybe a year ago or something.
I think it was a year ago, yeah.
Something like that. There was basically someone who put in a huge sell order on the Bitcoin markets of like a few $1 million, maybe up to $10 million. I don't remember. But on the order books, it just looks like this huge wall
Right.
of someone trying to sell tons of coins. And so anyone who wants the price to go up is terrified of that, because that means someone's basically about ready to dump all these coins. So it was called a bear because the person was selling, and a whale because it was a huge amount, and so it became known as the bear whale. And no one knew who this person was, or if they were just trying to manipulate the market or dump a bunch of coins. But over a few days, the markets tried to defeat this bear whale and buy up all the coins for sale. And ultimately, it was defeated, and the price rallied a little bit after that. Mm-hmm. So Shapeshift commemorated the day by commissioning some paintings from a couple artists called The Slaying of Bear Whale. So this is one of them.
This is the slaying.
Yeah, Matt Habel made this one. And then there's another one up on our site. So it's shapeshift.io/the bearwhale.html will take you to the story. You can learn about the slaying of the bear whale.
That's so awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
why would we think to do that? We should also have one for margin calls. That was a big fiasco as well with the price and all of
Yeah.
that going on.
There's so much fun lore in the Bitcoin world.
I know, who
It's
is the bear whale and who is Satoshi?
yeah, it all adds to the mystique.
So what do you think of that question that's roaming around lately about blockchain versus Bitcoin? Where do you stand on that issue?
I think it's definitely the terminology has definitely changed from Bitcoin to blockchain. That's true. It's not just anecdotal. It seems like the media everywhere is using that different term, and I think they're doing that because the term blockchain doesn't have any baggage. It doesn't have any
Bad media press, Silk
bad
Road.
press. Yeah, you say blockchain, you don't think of the Silk Road, but you say Bitcoin, and a lot of people do think of the Silk Road. And so, and also, if you talk about Bitcoin, you are talking about an alternative currency to normal government fiat, which most people get very uncomfortable thinking about. They don't want to believe that a free market currency can actually exist because it makes them challenge all sorts of assumptions that they have about money. But if you say blockchain, that doesn't challenge anything. It doesn't challenge money because blockchain is something new.
It's a
It's something that
technology.
everyone, right? It's not political at all. It's a technology everyone can get behind it. So people just find it easier to talk about blockchain than Bitcoin. But of course, they are two sides of the same coin, and you can't have one without the other. So I'm fine if the world wants to talk about blockchain instead of Bitcoin. Ultimately, their fates are tied together.
Right. I mean, one can't really exist without the other, right?
No.
And there has been actually this really interesting question people have started asking me, which is if, you get to the 21 market cap of Bitcoin and people stop mining, supposedly, because you don't really
Yeah.
need to be mining Bitcoins, what happens to the blockchain?
So the 21 million limit on Bitcoins doesn't just happen one dreadful day.
Oh
But
no, D-Day.
it's an asymptotic formula. So every 4 years, the number of Bitcoins that are released in every mined block gets cut in half. So there's never like one point where the process of mining just stops. 50 years in the future or 100 years in the future, the block reward will already be very tiny, like one Bitcoin or a tenth of a Bitcoin. And so the difference between mining a tenth of a Bitcoin and 0 Bitcoins is not that big of a deal. So why will mining continue at all? It'll continue because of the mining fees that are attached to transactions. And ultimately, if the experiment works, those mining fees will support a system of some level of hash power. And as long as that hash power is high enough to not get hacked easily, then the system can perpetuate.
And so the blockchain will survive. Or maybe people will
Blockchain.
just keep the cash power going just to keep the blockchain alive. Maybe?
Some people could, but I think it's important to not rely on the charity of people. There has to be an economic incentive for people to run the mining algorithms because it's expensive. And if Bitcoin actually takes over the world, then there will be so many transactions that the mining fees will actually be a substantial amount of money. In 100 years, the aggregate mining fees in a block will be more valuable in dollar terms than the block reward is today. So that's a good way to put it. Either that will have happened or Bitcoin will have failed and the whole thing will have fallen apart.
No, don't say that.
We'll just have to see which one happens
Or which coin wins.
or which coin wins. And ultimately it doesn't matter because now that there's distributed ledgers, mankind is not going to allow cryptocurrencies to go away in the same way it will not allow the internet itself to go away.
Well, and the bit license now kind of puts a legitimate layer on Bitcoin. So
I wouldn't use the word legitimate when it comes to anything that the government does. Some people are more comfortable when the government holds their hands. I think a lot of people see the bit license as helping the Bitcoin world, not because the bit license itself helps things, but because everyone is worried about what regulations are going to come out.
right.
Everyone's worried about how hard and in what way the government's going to punch the industry in the face. And so once the punch has happened, everyone's
First
going to be
hit.
like, all right, there was the punch. Now we know the damage that they're going to try to do, and we can move on. So it's more about getting rid of the uncertainty of what regulation will be, not that the regulations themselves are actually helpful to anything.
That's
Yeah,
true. That's a good point. Some people find
yeah.
it to be a level of safety or some kind of guarantee that, like, they can maybe get their money back or something. But consumer protection.
Yeah,
But that's a
yeah.
false argument
People
of
want.
sorts.
It's a very false argument. People look to the government for all sorts of protections, and this is one of the ways that the government maintains all the controls that they do. But of course, in the Bitcoin world, we have all sorts of protections that get developed just by the private industry. So we have this problem of all these hacks that have happened, right? And now we have multi-sig. So most professional Bitcoin companies are using multi-sig. Makes hacks much harder, makes consumers very much more protected, makes the businesses more protected. And that didn't come about through regulation. That came about through competition and innovation.
Right.
Similarly, sites like Shapeshift, we don't protect consumers because regulations ask us to. We do it because we can. The technology of Bitcoin allows us to build a system that protects consumers better. And so you.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
on. Well, is Shapeshift's multi-sig property, or is that not really the same?
Shapeshift doesn't really need to worry about multi-sig because we don't store lots of money. Multi-sig is for anyone really that's storing substantial amounts of cryptocurrencies. Shapeshift doesn't hold customer funds, so that's not a problem for us. And the small amount of inventory that we hold of each coin is not so much that if it was hacked, we would have a problem. So.
What have you seen? I mean, do you have a limit or max amount of coins that can be shape-shifted? There we go. I just
Yeah.
verbalized it.
There we go. It'll be like Googled, I'm sure. Yeah, so there's a limit on each currency pair. Sometimes that limit is a dollar amount that we specify, and sometimes that limit is just based on the depth of those coin markets. So, for example, some of these coins are really they have really small market caps, really thin markets. So you can't trade, for example, like $1 million of black coin because the price would go crazy. So if you try to buy that, it's better to buy it in small pieces. And so Shapeshift sells it in small pieces. And we couldn't process a huge order because the price would move so much that we wouldn't know what exchange rate to quote the user.
Right. Oh, interesting. See, things that I never would have thought of.
Yeah, the deeper coins, the more mature markets can have higher rates. So like Dogecoin, Litecoin, those have not higher rates, higher limits, because we can be comfortable providing a price for a higher amount because the depth is deeper.
So what do you think about the argument of Bitcoin and Ripple versus all the other coins, for instance?
Well, Ripple seems to be becoming more like a banking network than a cryptocurrency. So it exists.
And how is that? Why is it becoming more, for people who don't know, I guess?
It got started sort of by some Bitcoiners who wanted to build an alternative. And so in the beginning, I think it had a lot of the ideals of Bitcoin. But through a number of steps, it became very corporate. And I think a lot of the people who initially started it have left the project or gotten disillusioned with it. And so now it's very much like a new PayPal. Or a new banking network, and it's very much a corporation. It's not entirely open source. They say it'll all be open source, but that looks increasingly unlikely. They're implementing more and more controls on the system, which is completely antithetical to how a cryptocurrency is supposed to work. It's supposed to be censorship proof.
Right.
So Ripple's sort of moving toward it's becoming more like a bank than a cryptocurrency. But that's fine. I'm glad people are trying out different models of all this stuff, and the market will ultimately decide what it wants to use.
It's interesting when you look at all the different coins and all the applications, and you're kind of, it's hard to understand what the differences are sometimes unless you have like a map. And people are like, this is what makes this one different. This is why you would like this one. And
well, and a lot of them aren't really different. A lot of, there's like 500 of these. A lot of them are really pretty pointless. But you can't figure out what's pointless unless you experiment with things.
Right. It's kind of like apps.
Yeah, right. Like most apps in the App Store are not that useful. Most games in the App Store are not that fun.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started on this. Have you heard of this game? Basically, people press on a cookie. It's like a cookie counter thing.
I have not heard of that game, but that sounds amazing.
I forget what it's called. All you do is sit there and click on the cookie, and it nibbles on the cookie, and you gain points. So
they've probably made millions of dollars from that amazing idea.
It's really kind of tragic because I'm like, I don't understand. What are you doing?
Well, ultimately, people like to experiment, and it's a sign of a healthy ecosystem when there's lots of alternatives, even if most of the alternatives are useless.
And now shapeshifted has been verbalized, and they say once you are used as a verb, then
We've made it.
you've made it.
Yep.
Done. So, anything else exciting new coming up in the horizon that you can see in the ecosystem, or with Shapeshift? Or
Well, one thing we recently released was CoinCap.io, which is a site that shows all of the cryptocurrencies and shows their prices and market caps changing in real time. So it's like live streaming data of all 500 something cryptocurrencies.
wow.
So that's a pretty cool resource. And you can we have statistic that kind of shows the prevalence of the altcoin market versus Bitcoin. So we have something called the dominance index, and it kind of shows how much of the market cap of cryptocurrency is made up of Bitcoin versus everything else put together. So that's kind of an interesting thing to watch.
What is that looking like right now?
I think it's at like 86%, which means that Bitcoin is like $3.4 billion market cap or something, and all the other coins put together are a few $100 million. So if you took the entire market cap of all cryptocurrency with Bitcoin's about 86% of it, and everything else together, Ripple, Dogecoin, Litecoin, is about 14%. So Bitcoin is by far the dominant one.
That's
but what will
very
be
cool.
interesting to see, it'll be interesting to see if over the next 10 years, if that number goes to 99% or if it goes to 50%.
Right,
or
and then which
10%.
ones emerge and kind of
Right,
become...
which other ones take over some of that market cap.
It's very interesting. I mean, it's hard to wrap someone's head around the fact that there's 500 different coins. It's like, at least when you talk about the world's currencies and fiat right now, there's kind of a cap based on the fact that there aren't that many countries printing the money, and whatever kind of money curation is happening there. But it's interesting when you're like, why do you have 500?
Well, it's just so easy to make one.
Right.
How do you make a government fiat currency? Well, you have to sort of take over a country and make a central bank and hurt a lot of people and put in a lot of controls, and then
Make a mint.
decades later you could make a mint, and decades later a fiat currency can emerge. In Bitcoin, you can go to a website. There was a website a while back that would literally make you an altcoin. You just put in like the name, and you make a logo, and you decide how many coins you want and all that stuff, and it just pops out a new coin. So it's all software, right? So, and it's open source. So
it's been asked why we don't have a coin even, and I'm like, well, what would the coin be about?
That's good. You shouldn't just make a coin because you can. There needs to be like an important reason for any coin to exist, and any coin that doesn't have an important reason for existing will tend to go towards zero value.
Very, very interesting thing to say. What are some good reasons for a coin to exist, in your opinion?
Well, they need to do something useful. That's what it comes down to, right? So the reason Bitcoin exists is because it does something useful. It allows someone to store money outside of the banking system. It allows someone to transfer money anywhere in the world. It allows people to converse economically without censorship, all those things. What does Dogecoin do? Well, it's just kind of funny, and to the extent that the Dogecoin joke can be funny, that's utility, and there's value in there somewhere. The
biggest marketing vehicle of Bitcoin or digital currency.
Yeah, and things like Dash, their reason for being is their privacy. So they do privacy a lot better than Bitcoin. So that gives them a legitimate reason to be used in a complementary way to Bitcoin. And then there's coins like Nubits that are stable with the dollar. So if you want to be in the cryptocurrency world, but you don't want your value fluctuating all over the place, some of these stable coins are really good way to do that. You can hold your money in Nubits or Tether and then pay people in Bitcoin, and you can get the best of both worlds.
It's kind of interesting watching people trade Bitcoins as well, all the different coins. I mean, we played around on Cryptsy once before, but now we could use, what was the name again? One more time?
CoinCap?
CoinCap.
Yeah,
now
CoinCap.io.
So
CoinCap.io is just a listing of all the coins in real time with their prices.
So see, we could use that and take a look at the prices as well. It's always funny to me and interesting that all these different exchanges have different prices for coins. Like Bitcoin's a different price regardless of where you look at. It's kind of interesting why that lag happens or accounting.
Yeah, well, but importantly, the price will never be too different between two different exchanges.
Hopefully. Or
Well,
else you know there's something wrong with that.
but if it ever happens, then arbitrage will step in, and people will buy at the low exchange and start selling at the high exchange. And so there's always this natural mechanism to bring prices very close together, which is good.
How many traders of coins do you think exist in the world?
Who knows? It's hard enough to figure out how many people use Bitcoin. It's, casual to hardcore users of Bitcoin is probably in the realm of like 1 million to 5 million. I would say. How many people are doing it using Bitcoin, all the time? 500,000. And how many people are, day trading altcoins? Who knows? Maybe 50,000, something like that. But I'm just pulling those numbers out of thin air. I have no idea.
I mean, ratio-wise, that kind of makes sense with usage and everything.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks so much for being on the show, Erik.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see you again. We're excited for you guys and your news today. I know how hard it is to get an app in the App Store. So.
Yeah, we were relieved when it got in. So we're all sitting happy right now.
Because everybody hears the horror stories of process and application and being denied.
I know, but to Apple's credit, it seems like they are being much more reasonable about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency apps. So I don't know if they've ever had a policy about it or.
They did, I think, a year ago, and then they kind of were like, okay, fine, we'll let digital currency come back on.
Yeah, so they've been doing better, so that's good for them.
So, are you on Android as well and other platforms?
No, we will get Android done as soon as possible, but it's not ready yet.
So we'll have you back on the show then.
That would be great.
Well, thanks, Erik.
All right, thank you, Tina.
Bye.
Bye.